Hello guys and welcome to a preview of ground forces with RAMJB. In this video what you are going to see is not as important as what you are going to hear, because the screenshots you are going to see right now you have already seen. They were released some days ago in War Thunder main page. There have been some videos about ground forces and tanks and stuff in other channels, in YouTube channels, for instance in Bismarck's or Baron Games. And they have pretty much covered what actually appears in those screenshots from the technical point of view of the tanks that you can see. The Tiger, the T-34, Panther 3, the detail, all that stuff they have already covered. But today I have found something that has surprised me because it's actually advance and news on how the gameplay is going to actually be. And that's in the forums in one post that I'm going to link below in the description, so you can go there and check by yourself. A post by 5x5 who took the work to do a Google translation, which is not a huge work, but whatever, took the work to do it, from the Russian forum, when actual news about the gameplay, which were posted in the Russian forum. And well, that translation has got me really interested, and I want to share what it says with you guys. So, well, let's not drag it any longer and start with it. Well, first of all, there will be battles with ground forces only. This means that in the tank battles there will be no player control planes. This we already knew. There is going to be an exclusive mode for gameplay with tanks and ground forces, and no planes. So arcade mode, historical mode, and full real mode. In the future, again, there will be a combined mode, which is the world war mode, which is in the plans, but that's coming a long way in the future. But for now, when they are released, it will be ground forces only. At release, they are going to be just two nations, two trees, Soviet and German. That's because they are taking the time to properly develop and accurately represent all the tanks in the game. Within those trees, there will be probably tanks from other nations. Probably in the Russian tree, there will be a lot of Lend-Lease tanks. So Shermans, Valentines probably will be there, and a lot of other tanks that were leased to Russia in World War II. As the developing goes on and as new tanks come online, there will be more nations. So don't worry about that. But in release, there will be just two of them. Right now, it has been confirmed that there will be tanks, tank destroyers, and assault guns for the release. And other types of ground forces will come later, and probably some of them will make it into the game for player control or not, depending on how the gameplay develops. During after the release of the starting forces, they want to make sure that no type of vehicle is going to be broken or unbalanced or too good or too bad. So depending on that, they will add it later. The plan is to add only serial built machines only. Just for extreme cases, there will be prototypes, and in really extreme cases, paper models. So paper tanks that were on paper but never made it into real life. This is to probably balance nations that didn't have extremely good tanks. For instance, Japan. I'm guessing that there will be a lot of prototypes around, and to make them compete with other nations in the after World War II scenarios. Because of course we all know Germany and Japan lost the war, and there were no post World War II tanks. So yeah, it's going to be all production machines only, with prototypes and paper tanks only when really and really needed. Along those lines, those paper models will be not completely new imaginary stuff or things that were just on paper. There will be actual planned development of existing tanks. For instance, some of the top tiers for Germany will be tanks that never actually existed, but were planned from the base of existing vehicles. For instance, the Tiger II will have a more advanced version with a 105mm gun. The thing here is that the 105mm gun was planned to be mounted in the Tiger II if the war was dragged on. The turret was designed with that gun in mind. Later, it only took the long 88 because it was enough. But the Tiger II with a 105mm gun is one of the planned inclusions in the game. That's a paper tank, never existed in real life, but was an actual plan to produce an existing tank into a more advanced one. So paper tanks are going to be, or paper models, tanks that never actually existed, are going to be develops of actual tanks that did exist, not completely new models. Then there's this is more planned. This is not confirmed yet, but this is planned. Dynamic fire model depending on what's burning. So if you set a tank on fire, it will burn differently if what is burning is the oil, the propellant of the rounds, the fuel of the tank, etc. So there will be different kind of fires. The external fuel tanks will be able to be blown out by hits. You all know that in this screenshot you can see some of them. There are some Soviet tanks, mostly also some German tanks did it, that had external carrier fuel tanks. So when the internal fuel tank was empty, the crew could refuel it. Well, if you hit that in battle, there's a good chance that those will blow up and cause damage. There's the ability to put the gun barrel of the tank out of commission. If you hit the gun barrel of the tank, you can actually destroy it and leave the tank without a gun. Tanks position are going to be interchangeable. So if you get your driver dead, you can get another of your crew members down in the driver position and he will drive, but he will be nowhere near as efficient and as good as the actual driver. So if you go get a hit that kills your gunner, you might get your loader to gun and to aim the gun, but he's not going to be as efficient as the gunner actually was. There are going to be a lot of assists in arcade mode. There's a planned virtual gunner to assist and aim your gun in distance, so you won't have to be worried about the actual range to the target. The gunner will aim it actually for you. There are a lot of other, they also said there will be some other assists in arcade, but they didn't name any. There are going to be night fights, and their lightning is going to be really important, as well as possible inclusion of night vision through infrared lamps. At the end of World War II, there were actually the first sets of infrared lightning and night vision, and those were developed later for Korea in the Allied forces. The first models were in the German tanks. And that's going to make it into the game. So yeah, night battles is going to be a huge thing for tanks that have night vision. There will be ability to lay smoke screens to cover visuals and to hide attacks. There will be destructible buildings, and that's going to be visual damage and actual gameplay damage. Probably the first maps are going to happen in Berlin. At least is what I get from the translation. There's going to be a very accurate and realistic simulation of the suspension systems in the tank. So this means that different terrains are going to impact your mobility in very different ways. It's not going to be the same as going through on hard ground like a paved road than going off track over soft ground, maybe a swamp, etc. And different tanks will have different performances in those surfaces. So tanks that had a very low ground pressure and very huge road wheels will be much better off track and off the road than tanks that didn't have those. There's going to be a modular system damage. So you can actually hit different modules of the tank and set them out of order, out of commission. So engine, gun, probably track. Well, probably for sure tracks are going to be like that. Periscopes probably as well. And all those modules are going to be able to be damaged both by direct fire and by fire. So if you get a tank on fire, the fire will spread within the tank until it's extinguished and probably can damage several modules. There's the ability to push enemies and turn them by with your tank by pushing them. So the scenario of pushing tanks off a cliff, which is so famous in World of Tanks and is so funny, probably is going to happen as well in War Thunder. There's going to be totally realistic gun ballistics and ranges and penetrations up to 10 kilometers of distance. This is huge because German tanks were known for getting hits at up to 5 kilometers of distance. In some extreme cases it was not the norm, but there are recorded hits at those distances. I mean, to simulate and actually track the round up to 10 kilometers of distance, that's actually overdoing it. You don't need that, but that's huge. And of course, all the ballistics are going to be accurately represented, and penetration mechanics are going to be realistic. There's going to be the ability to shoot planes with the main gun of your tank. And this will be probably something that's going to be very, very funny to watch. Yeah, because shooting planes with guns, maybe in World War mode, when that comes, that's going to be montage material for a lot of guys. If your aim is good, of course, because I guess it's not going to be easy. There are going to be side skirts and extra protection armor available, and I'm guessing unlockable. And those will affect the external appearance of your tank. So you have your base tank, you want to mount side skirts to protect them versus shaped shirts, I'm guessing, high explosive. And the side skirts will be mounted in your tank, and you will be able to actually see that extra armor added to your tank. There will be a highly accurate graphical display of damage. So the place you are hit, you are going to see the mark or the penetration if it happens. This is very important, the next point, and this is something we were all wondering about. All the weapons in your tank you can shoot. All of them. This includes machine guns, quasi machine guns, and all those guns that are in multi-turreted tanks. So if you are thinking of an M3 Lee, which we all know had a gun in the hull, another one in the turret, you will be able to shoot both of them. Also with all the machine guns the tank actually had. So this is very important because this means that tanks with a lot of different turrets, like the T-35, which was called a land battleship, will have a hell of a lot of guns to fire, a lot of them. Also, armor mechanics are going to include ricochets, are going to, as I told you, include very accurate penetration mechanics, including angles. Angle armor, of course, is going to be very effective, as well as the angle you are actually hitting the tank at, including the material quality of the armor of the tank, which is going to be better or worse depending on the nation, the era of the tank, etc., and the actual appearance and the actual ammo quality. Because of course it's not the same an armor piercing round that a high explosive round or a tungsten core APCR round. So all of that is going to be taken in consideration. There's going to be very detailed terrain with a lot of graphical. Well, you can see that in the screenshots. It's useless to insist on that, but the terrain is going to be a very, very huge thing for the game, because hold down positions are going to be very important. Goalies to advance hitting, that kind of stuff is going to be in the game. Um, and then there are some things that they are considering. We don't know if they will, and they don't know if they will make it into the game or not. First of all, as I told you, there will be different kind of vehicles in the release. There are going to be tank destroyers, and assault guns, and they are considering other kind of vehicles and ground forces to include. And probably this includes armored cars, recon vehicles, and yeah, yeah, scumbags. They're actually wondering if they want to put player control artillery into the game or not. My vote, please don't. Don't. Leave them alone. Leave them alone, really. There's also in consideration the damage due collisions with hitting other objects. I'm guessing they are wondering if they want for tanks to stand damage if they hit a rock, for instance, or for careless driving. For instance, if you hit a house, if the damage you are going to take is realistic or not, and they are considering that. It's not sure if it will make it into the game or not. If we'll make it into is full real, for instance, and not arcade, but it's in consideration. They are also wondering how fire extinguishing will work. If it's going to be a passive skill that works on its own each time you get on fire, or if it's going to be something active that needs active input for the player, like a button that you need to press in order to command your crew to extinguish the fire, etc. There's also in consideration the inclusion of amphibious tanks for player control. Of course, they will be probably in AI, but they are including wondering if they are going to include them or not for player control. And that's mostly it. Those are the news that came into that translated post. My conclusions. Well, this is going to be awesome. Awesome. And probably, well, this is also something that the thread and the translation said. Probably tank tiers and tiers and levels are going to be much more important in ground forces than in planes, because a plane can actually, I mean, a level 4 plane can easily kill a level 16 plane. He only has to shoot at him and shoot him down. Of course, that requires a very stupid level 16 player, but it can happen. The problem with this is that high tier tanks are going to be very hard to penetrate for early level tanks. So probably the matchmaking is going to be a lot more restricted than what it is in the air side of War Thunder, which in my opinion is very good, because they should have that kind of stuff for planes as well. But in what regards to ground forces, I mean, a Tiger 2 tanks is invulnerable for an M3 Lee or a Stuart. It's no discussion about that. So probably the tiering system will work different in tanks than in planes. And well, that's all for now, guys. That's the news I had for you. I hope you like them. I really do. I think this is huge and promises a lot for the ground forces side of War Thunder. Excited as I am, I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and see you later.